Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. We have the first of a best of 3 with the first Lieutenant Milk Tea, and this was on the BootCamp 1v1 Rookie Tourney, so this is I think my third round that I've been playing in, and it's going to be Nuclear Winter is coming, and I'm playing as Eurocore. I also do have with me for commentary today Osama bin Lifting off of the Blitz War community.
Hello.
So you said, I think, you were watching this while it was being played out, and you really did not like my opener. Do you want to sort of tell people why?
Yeah, and it wasn't really the units as so much as your recon situation. This map is very wide, and it's either going to be a big push in alpha or big push into your other 2-pointer, which most cases usually is a 2-pointer. And from this side, is going to be 2-point push to your alpha. You really need to get that early recon up. So it's almost always guaranteed you should buy some sort of recon helo and just drive it through kind of delta-ish to see where that big initial push is coming.
So this is maybe a weakness of my deck, I think, because my only recon helicopter is the 140-point Tiger, and I really couldn't figure out a way to make it fit with the second command vehicle. So I was sitting there going, I know I'm going to be blind here, but I really didn't know a different way to handle it, because if you take 140 points off the map, that's more than what's going up to this section in Alpha. Might about equal this whole bit with the Legion 90 and the VABs, so maybe I need to take a look at that in the deck builder, make some changes.
Yeah, I'd recommend it because, as you can see here, you would see that he's dropping stuff off in, like a Pagoda and MI-17s into Alpha, which would allow you to kind of place your units a little differently.
Yeah, not be
luckily we
driving
didn't
up with
really
an
lose too
ATGM
much.
team right there, like...
Yeah. But I mean, you're lucky that's all it was, and I guess, in a tournament game, you do have the foresight of knowing, what nation your enemy's playing, and there are obviously some tournament rules, but in ranked, sometimes you don't know, you're playing against some of the nations that have stealthier recon helos, and they just fly right up that river, and none of your recon is spotted by the time it's already in your base.
Right, even
so
the
it can be very
recon
dangerous.
infantry on the ground is like it's not going to be enough there, and this was something I was definitely worried about. I think I got a little bit lucky there. I mean, I'm trying to get stuff into Alpha now. You can see my opponent has brought stuff to Alpha, and I figured if he's doing that sort of rush, why not move up into India? I have a 2A4, I have a bunch of reservists, probably unloaded a bit early, but I unloaded them when I saw that sniper shot come in. So if we wait just a second, you should see... yeah, right there.
Yeah, there it is, yeah.
So I figured if he has stuff there, it probably has an anti-tank secondary, I don't want any part of that. And then just sort of moving up with Legion 90 VABs and a 10 RC to secure this part of India while making sure to smoke my tank. Didn't really have as much anti-air as I'd like, but this was just such a big map. And I spent my first points on the Tiger, which, I don't know, it gets rid of this for sure, but it's expensive.
Yeah, you kind of pay for the availability of the information with the Tiger, especially because it's, exceptional optics, stealthy on its own. And it's got a small armament to really pick at stuff that you can see that is maybe isolated and really take advantage of poor positioning by the enemy.
Yeah.
I do like to push on Ivan. Of course, I would say probably a little more anti-air. Your AMX 13 VTTs should probably also help with your reservists. Those 50 cals really do add up. 6 of those things are actually going to really do a number on these guys. Yeah.
This was an accident as well, so my reservists here are not supposed to be moving through, just not inside of towns, and I think I got them moving now, but it was just a little bit too late. And again, this is because...
it's fine,
I spent
you
this
didn't
whole
really
game
lose much.
bopping back and forth, and you can see I've brought out a lot of reinforcements on this side. So we have more reservists and 13 VTTs, 1390s, a Panther, more stuff coming out to that side of Alpha, because what I've seen before is if the blue side, so my side, secures this part of Alpha, but not the right-hand side, fighting over this sector is just, it's a whole game-long thing. It's not something I want to be doing.
Yeah, you can get away with it if you own most of the left half of the zone, but I would always at least contest that far right side. Yeah. It saves you a lot of hassle.
So I've got some recon infantry that were supposed to go over there, and then I sort of changed my mind and moved over, and that's what the Tiger here is doing, screening, which was a little bit risky if he had longer range anti-air, but it's on taunt. I don't think they have much of that. The Sava is probably the best on the ground. Not really sure. Hey, we got the Brownings engaged. Look at that.
Yep. Yeah. There you go.
Oh man, that's goofy.
There's not very much they can do.
Yeah.
I do like how you responded to again, this is a lot of things newer players suffer is they don't respond properly to threats on the map. Instead of buying for your 2-pointer, and this might seem obvious in the hindsight, and observing, but especially for newer players, they don't really know this, but you actually bought properly. You bought the right units for Anna. You didn't overinvest in India. You bought just barely what you need to at least kind of hold on to India.
And then I got a little bit lucky too, I think. I mean, the Proletary 90 pushing up there through the woods into the town, if they take an even fight with the Legion, I think that's a pretty close fight. And that's not something I want to be taking. And because I had the town position, we got a lot of value, basically, not for free, but pretty close to it with my Legion 90 there. In the 1390s, this is a trick I picked up from the Mint Jellyman.
Yes.
Wonderful player, and he just goes, yeah, put it right there, move stuff up,
and just fucking kill everything. It can see everything, it can kill everything, and it's probably can't even be spotted itself.
Right, and then just more bodies going up and into alpha, basically just to allow the 1390s to shoot. And then this was something I wish I could have handled better. So MI-17 is on the left side of the town, and I really don't have the tools in this to handle it right now. So I have a VAB back here, I have the VBL Mistral is way too far forward to deal with these, I'd have to come over all the way over here. And this town is still hostile. There was also some hostile forces on the back part between his hotel and India. And I was just sitting there going, I don't know how to handle this, but I know that I want to handle this. Yeah, so just a little bit of a tough situation I didn't quite know what to do with there.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I think that was smart. And then this is where the value of the Tiger really starts to kick in. It can just swing left and right. It can cover so many holes, which is really important on a map this wide.
Yeah, I do also want to point out, I didn't move it over until after I had Commando's Para on this side and a VAB. That way there could be no sneaky base stuff, because I do sneaky base stuff on this map all the time, it's hilarious. Because it's so wide. But that's why, I mean, the Tiger was just he was gonna sit there, he was gonna make sure none of that was going on. And then once he's free, and when I have a problem on the other side of the map, just move him over. And I only wish I had more stingers, because I've already used 2, and I actually think they fire fast enough that it's only really 1 guaranteed helicopter kill with the 2 stingers. Maybe not even. Which was definitely tough.
Yeah, the MI-17s I kind of noticed were a little bit of an issue for you. One thing is, if you don't have anti-air, just sometimes throwing some cheap transports at it, like your AMX-13s, to eat up the rockets is a good idea.
I guess. I mean, the 35-point helicopter has what, 2 barrages? So if he kills 10 points in transports and then it's useless, I guess until it rearms, that is net positive for me. It's just not taking it off the field. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I never really thought about it that way before. Here, I was gonna try and get a cheeky little peek out, but I want to make sure the 2A4 was up there first in case they had a tank gun or something shooting in before the
Exactly. Well, I was gonna say, like, the Leopard 2A4 can also just shoot eat the rockets from the MI-17 to itself.
Yeah.
And it would literally just do like 3 damage for the whole barrage or something.
Super Gallop is coming in here from Milk Tea, chasing my 2A4, but I was really, I mean, you gotta expect stuff like that when you're this close to your opponent's air spawn. So I was sitting there the whole time going, I don't want this to happen, let's just constantly keep smoke. And these guys I really like. It's maybe not
they used to be the best mortar in the game before they nerfed it.
I mean,
it's still really good. I mean, yeah.
So close. I mean, there were a couple really big value plays here from Milk Tea in this game. We're going to see some of them later on, and I kind of mess up a little bit over in India, but it was a very close game. I was not feeling comfortable about it pretty much ever. And yeah, I have a presence in India, but he's still in Alpha, and I mean, Reservist versus Laka Brachota is kind of funny, I think, but yeah, he still has some minimal presence here. I have nothing in Delta, and if we trade 2 pointers, then he has Delta, and I lose, right? So that's what's going through my head at this point in the game.
Yeah, and I think at this point, you might have already bought it, but when you own town blocks like this, and just any part of the map and any sort of any sort of map you're playing, you always want to just throw some ATGMs and there was just some long-range fire support, just because it makes it a lot more harder for them to push you. Like if you had line infantry in the town, it's very easy to push up into the town and just take it. Or even shock infantry, it's very easy for them to just kind of just walk in, because this fire support can basically kill your infantry. But if you have stuff like ATGMs, recoilless rifles, now you can engage much farther range and kind of outside of some of the fire support ranges.
And I was definitely a little slow on getting that stuff up. I didn't know what was in here. I thought it was mostly militia, but we did see Prusminski earlier, and those, of course, are the shock recon troops. And I didn't want to send a fragile ATGM up there until I knew it could probably survive. So that's what these guys are headed up there for. I believe these are Commando Marine. And then I'm just pulling back from the side of India, and this is sort of, and I said earlier if I kept India and lost Alpha, but now it looks like I'm going to be doing the other way around here. As I'm sort of getting into Alpha, you can see I just called a command vehicle to cap that. But India, like, yeah, it's hard to get you out of this town if you have it, from my side. But I lost the entire woods there, and that was something I was very worried about, just because, I don't know, I mean, tourney games like this, you get to round 2, round 3, round 4, and it has to be running through your head that your opponent has won each of their games leading up to this against people in the same general skill level. So it was very intimidating to be sort of on the, I'd say right now, I guess positional even ground, but very nearly on the back foot if I lose India. So, a little nerve-wracking. The Vabs here will do a very nice job. So Oat M5s from Milk Tea. These guys are just the 5-pointers. They are mechanized, even though they kind of look like, with those big front wheels, that they're motorized. They're not. They have backside tracks.
Yeah, they're half-tracked.
Yeah. And I think we trade about evenly there. The Vabs are 15 points, but we killed a bunch of the Oat M5s. And I mean, MI-17 used all its rocket pods, killing a Vab. So I really don't mind too much. The bigger problem is just the stacks and stacks and stacks of 15 strength militia, which Commander Marine can kill them, but the other thing too, as I said earlier, we're really close to their air spawn, and what kept running through my head was, 1, if I'm spotted, the MI-17s can shoot, and then 2, if I'm spotted, that means he knows where to bomb, and a couple of bombs. This is not a huge town, and I kept thinking he was just going to buy 2 bombers and go 1 right here, 1 right here. Everything in here probably dies. And if it doesn't
and
die
in Eurocore, your anti-air is not necessarily long range. You're relying on Rolands, which are great, but not necessarily longest range like a Hawk Pip or a Patriot.
So if you were wondering during the game, watching it why I called in 2 Gepards when I already had a Roland, it's because I just then remembered I had it here. And we got 1
yeah, I was
shot
gonna
off.
say it's not too far back. And also one thing I wanted to point out, and I guess you'll kind of see it in the second round too, is your opponent over relies on ATGM planes, and I know it's a really common instinct for new players to buy ATGM planes when they see heavy tanks, but you really have to do the math. Most of these planes are like 140 points at least, really expensive, and against good players who are microing their smoke micro and their tank micro well, kind of like you were doing most of these 2 games. It's really hard to get that payoff, and especially even if you do kill the tank, again, it's also 140 points of stuff you don't have on the ground to maybe take ground or whatever.
And usually low availability on the card. And I just want to say on that topic, it's sort of something that, I don't know, it bothered me a little bit when I started thinking about this game in those terms, right? Because it's a war game, it's kind of fun. Well, I mean, it's really fun, but it's chaotic, it's, ground units in combat, air units in combat, and you kind of want to think of it as this grand scale, well, but what if my troops are just better, sort of thing. And you kind of have to think about it sometimes like an accountant. You kind of have to have in your head, how many points have I lost, how many points has he lost, what is this worth? And one part of that is the return on investment you can get from a unit. So, for example, if we look at my 2A4, 130 points, and his M91A V4, 170. If these 2 engage each other, my 2A4 will probably die in a fair fight. Certainly will die in a fair fight. But if we're doing other things, like killing transports, like killing infantry, killing backline units, if I can get an exploit or something like that, then my 2A4 has to kill less in order to make his value up. So the M91A V4 is better for the tank-to-tank fight, but if you're not counting on seeing something that it really needs that extra muscle to deal with, the 2A4 pretty much does the same job for a little cheaper. In fact, I think, well, 3HE is not the best, some tanks have 4, I think it's a bit more common on red. Might be wrong about that. But that's the sort of math that you have to do calling out units, and planes are very much like that. So, Mechanizov and a Pez here, and I'm moving up a Panther trying to shoot them. I don't actually know if I'd succeed.
I'm kind of surprised you got that angle.
Yeah, I was very surprised at the time too.
I would just avoid it just because in that part of the forest you think it's so close
Well, that
that
was
you're
a right click as well. I probably should have just come over here and told it to stop, and then it would get a decent angle in, but yeah, that was sort of the edge of my peripheral vision as I was trying to deal with the M91A, and I think we nearly got a shot off there, but that's when I'm going to be bringing up ATGM teams. You can see them on their way right now, as well as Martyr 2s and Panzergren 90, and I figured the Panzergren 90 would fight really well in this town, and the Martyr 2s, these guys will surprise you, the guns, although 1575 meter against helicopters not great.
No, they're great for killing Mi-17s.
Yeah, so
because they're tanky enough where they can eat the rockets, and then you just use your gun to kill them.
I really wish we could roll back a couple patches to when they had 10 frontal armor, just so I could use it once and see what that's like. Because that just sounds terrifying.
So you weren't playing during that time, right?
I was not. No. So I started playing in earnest probably some point last year, maybe not even a year ago, not even a calendar year ago. Although I was playing with friends for about a year and a half from now, so I did with friends for about most of a year, and then I've been playing with the intent to get better for most of a year as well, and those are two very different things. I do like this game just with friends. I think it's a good time if you have 3 or 4 people. So Super Gallop's coming in again and picking off a 5-point truck in this evac Winchester, and I saw that and I was sitting there going, okay, great, he's on cooldown.
Yeah, he's on cooldown for a little while.
Yeah, cool, works for me. And meanwhile, I mean, my reservists are probably going to die here, but what I was doing was getting the Commando Marine to engage with their AA-52s, and trying to draw out anything else, and this was a bit of a mistake. I unloaded too early. Okay, so we have 2 M91As, Leopard 2A4 is unfortunately not in position to take advantage of that, but we'll look at that later, because I think that is sort of one of those angles where you get really nice side shots if you can manage it. This, by the way,
you're creating a crossfire, which can be a really big pain in the ass for him to deal with.
Yeah, this was kind of brain dead, so watch my guns on this. They're off. And then I was really... So, actually, at the time, I think I was looking at it back here, and I thought from this angle,
you were zoomed out.
that he had already passed me. So,
yeah,
I actually turned on my guns a little too early and take just the missile right to the face. This is just... oh.
Yeah, I remember watching that. You were pretty zoomed out.
It felt rough. I was also concerned at the time that this was going to work, right? Because I have 2A4 in here, and Commandos Para, and that's it. I don't have fire support. I don't have the really, really lovely 1390s that I was using over on the right-hand side.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you should probably have picked one up, just because the 2A4 is good at killing, pretty strong stuff, but large volumes of stuff, you can pretty easily get overwhelmed.
Yeah, even large volumes of cheap tanks at that sort of range. But
I think this is where the Beaver dies.
Ooh, okay. So 1, 2. There it is. Milan
yeah,
shot.
He's kind of
beautiful.
Yeah.
170 points gone. Did not get a return on investment. And now my 2A4 is a little less outnumbered. In fact, with the Leclerc, I actually have the advantage here right now in super heavies.
Yep.
What you want to have.
And there was that crossfire work basically. He was pushing those guys up to engage your 2A4. Along with his reserves pushing, and of course he just makes a mistake. And even for better players, it rarely happens, but it does happen once in a while.
Yeah. So this is the time where the Rolands just start to really also do good work. So we killed, I believe it was a Thermomig. 912B. Yeah, Thermomig. There with the Roland 3. I only wish I had a second one. Probably should have called that up instead of the second Gepard. They do have, I tend to find, a bit better luck against planes, just because the Gepard's anti-plane gun is the twin radar gun, and it's a little shorter. It's shorter range, 3,500 versus 2,625, and it's a gun instead of a missile, so you have to shoot a lot in order to get significant amounts of damage. But here comes the Super Gallop. He's looking for my 2A4. I'm already pulling back into the woods. You have to do this early, or you're going to think, well, but I'm in the woods, and you're not far enough back yet to cut line of sight. But first shot, second shot, and yeah, we get a little bit of chip damage. We get a stun off the Gepard A2, but it's not quite enough. And my KWS
Yep, and this is why... Oh, that's nice. But yeah, I was going to say, for the Roland, if you didn't know, it can only fire 2 shots before doing a pretty long reload.
So that's why the second
if you look at the model,
just increases the effectiveness.
Yeah, because you're relying on it hitting both shots, which it's not out of the realm of because 65% actually is pretty accurate. but doubling them up on him wouldn't hurt, or teaming it up with a KWS.
Yeah, that's fair. So my opponent at this point does cap India. I'm up about 226 points to 0. And in response to this, I have more stuff coming up in India, but I just start going in Alpha Charlie because we spent 15 minutes fighting mostly over India. And I have a significant amount of force here. I have Vabs, I have Legion 90, I have a Leopard 2A4. This is a big investment. To have it sitting there doing nothing is really not acceptable. I thought he was going to push in, but he doesn't, so I'm sitting there going, okay, well, let's see what we can do. And we take a couple of ATGMs there. I'm going to move over some of the cheaper 5-point boxes to take those because I don't have smoke. I would have loved to have had a mortar on that side, I just didn't. And then in the meantime, we're fighting in the town, Lecha and T0s, but then also getting reservists and more AMXs up and forward to sort of screen and take some fire from the 2A4s. Also, smoke micro mistake. I didn't mean to smoke here. I was trying to smoke farther back.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, interesting smoke placement.
I wanted to block off his VHOR as well, so I was trying to go on this side between these two sections.
Yeah, that makes a little more sense. I was hoping that maybe some of the what I was teaching you last night kind of kicked in, which is why you're pushing both sides at the same time. I don't know if you ever really thought about it.
It did. It crossed my mind for the opener, and I'm embarrassed to say it crossed my mind for the opener because I was sitting there going, I don't think I actually took that one to heart. There's a difference between hearing something like that and really truly internalizing it. And I really just struggled to internalize how to do a good opener on this map. I mean, that's why we had what we had at the beginning on this time, and frankly, it might also just be a problem in the deck builder, where I don't have the tools that I need to make that make sense. I'm not saying nobody can do it, but at least I need different tools to sort of make that make sense. So this is kind of funny, my KWS dives the Super Gallup, and then I completely forget about it. I thought I hit evac, but I did right as it got stunned. And so it's not listening to me, and I just stopped thinking about it. So, I mean, look at this whole chase, L-17 trying to close on it with his gun. That was a missile right there. Second, third missile, more guns, taking no damage from any of this. Finally, 1 strength, evac ordered, and gets out. So,
yeah, that was
super lucky.
That was something.
You won't see that every day. I don't recommend forgetting about your 140-point air superiority fighters. But the reason I did is because I was looking over here. We've spotted his command vehicle. We've taken apart some of the garrison forces he had there.
Next time I'm shooting, instead of shooting from max range, just drive your thing up so it'll scale the range and accuracy.
Yeah, that's
but yeah, like I think playing wide on this map is so important because again, with some of the newer players, they can't micro this wide. And again, this is a particularly wide map, so him having to deal with all of this at the same time is very... I mean, he hasn't even noticed his CV is getting shot at. This has been going on for at least 30 seconds now.
It just didn't move. And then we have this drop 2 finally that I guess somehow we had just bypassed.
Yeah, it just moved past it.
That decaps Charlie, and that puts me back to a +1. So you can see he actually, with the India cap, with the Charlie cap, Delta cap, what I said could happen did happen. And he was ticking +1 for enough to get 14 points. So on this side, my Leclerc is moving forward. I think I've already lost the 2A4.
Yeah, I didn't notice where you lost it, but you did lose it though.
I did, and then that was a beautiful crossfire. So I took an ATGM, and then the M91A just finished it off. I had thought this section of trees was thick enough to block that. But hey, live and learn. I've just lost, what, 310 points in the blink of an eye between those two tanks. So I actually got really nervous, and I think you had a comment when we were talking about this game earlier where my response to that is to huddle, and that's not always the best idea.
Yeah, and especially for more experienced players, they'll kind of guess what you're kind of thinking based on your behavior. If you're going to huddle up like that, even after putting... I mean, he probably saw you put all that reservist in there with the Hera. If you're going to huddle up, it's giving him a signal saying, okay, this guy's not confident. He probably doesn't have like any more tanks behind it, or he's basically worried that this VHOR is going to steamroll him. Because if you had something, let's say like another Leclerc backing that up, you'd probably still be pushing with the reservists. There is sort of a mind game.
Some reservists could definitely kill. So like, I guess show strength, and people will get intimidated. It's one of the things, like playing with confidence is so hard sometimes. But it really does do just wonders in this game. It's really just, it's so much of it's in your head. It's kind of incredible.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Just to show that a little bit more, here's his CV. Command infantry right there, my reservists and AMX. Like, if I sent these guys and the 13 VTTs over, it's just dead. And because I got scared, because I didn't go over there, I instead did nothing with these reservists. And it's actually no small amount of reservists either. This is, what's 20 points per group, so that's 20, 40, 60-ish points of reservists. I might override.
Yeah, and you can spare to send 1 or 2 to just scout, and honestly, reservists are some of the best recon you can get in the game.
Face check. It's like Dungeons and Dragons. Do you have stealth? No. Do you have any ability to like do recon? No. Well, what do you have? Armor and a big sword and shield. So we're just going. This was interesting too. I want to show this. My 2A4 up here is on 4 strength from some earlier combat, and I think has done a pretty good job on this side. But there's a stealth tank, a recon tank from Milk Tea that's moving his way up on this side. He's already killed an AMX 1390, and I don't really have much else by way of recon other than the 1390. So I've already purchased. I thought I'd purchased an AMX 10RC, but I'm out of the recon.
Yeah, I thought I saw that during the game.
And
might have come up later.
Tiger. I think, yeah, it is a little later, but the Tiger's going up there just to dissuade on that side. While we have slowly but surely made our way through here, the Vabs are wonderful for fire support against things in the open, especially infantry, and killing off that Conquerors team means that I finally do have control over this side of the map. So this is the other thing I was kicking myself for after the game, not just moving in here. Where else could it be? Nobody is going to be a madman enough to put it in this section of woods.
Even if they are, you would just be able to like arty it.
Yeah, so by the way,
did he right click you? Oh wow, interesting.
He used a gun run and just take him down with stingers. So Gepard A2 doing some pretty good work there yet again. But his V4 is damaged. I did notice that at the time. I just didn't really know how to take advantage of it because I haven't rebought a super heavy. I was instead buying things for Charlie because this right now is my advantage. We're taking +3, and with 13 minutes left, that means he's going to have to hold a +2 would do it for him right now if he was able to switch it to a +2 for himself right now. But you know, this gets really tough to deal with very, very fast. If I could get up to about 400 points and then stay even for a bit, he all of a sudden he needs a +4, he needs a +5, and I couldn't really see this game swinging back that hard, even if I do start losing in India, even if I do lose Charlie. Now, I did decap Charlie just for a second. Thermomig's coming in, and my Legion are getting the heck out of dodge. A little bit unsupported there, but I figured the Ericses would be decently happy in that position, and I don't really know how they got spotted, but sometimes that's just life, I suppose.
Yep. I think at this point, you know, as you said, he needs a 2+ to even
tie, right?
Yeah, I think it'll barely break that tie. Yeah, it'll probably tie at best. Anyways, you've got India, you know, his 2-pointer, and you've got all that infantry in the city. That's a pain in the ass to clear. If you own that whole thing, you spike it with AT gems, and you've got proper anti-air to back that up. That's going to take a long time for him to clear out.
And I am bringing up more ATGMs. I only wish I had brought in, at this point, probably command infantry. Because even if he knows that, if I bring up a command infantry and this gets countercapped, so it goes to neutral and I flip to +5, he'll know where it is, sure. But he can either leave it there and I'm ticking +5, or he can try and buy bombers or some sort of response for it, in which case it's slowing down his efforts on the other side of the field.
Yep, and honestly, not buying a CB is not the end of the world either, because using that extra 100 points to just buy material, you know, send into Charlie, for example, that's probably a better choice. You know, you're already ticking +3. It's only 10 minutes left. You don't need another +2. You know, your Charlie, you don't really have a strong hold of as compared to India.
Right. So that's what I'm trying to reinforce right now, just to make sure I can hang on to that +3. And I guess it's one of those moments where I figured I was winning enough, right? I'd rather try and stay winning enough instead of winning more and potentially losing it all. So that was sort of the internal calculus. Speaking of losing it all, though, Thermomig, and he's just relentlessly hunting down my Legion. So at this point, I was out of reservists. My cheapest infantry were the Legion 90, which is a problem. And that Thermomig missed, but it's going to be a bit of a hunt there. And my KWS, unfortunately, I don't think even got the kill. What is a little goofy here, let's just pause and take this second. My Peace Rhine came up, and then my intention was to come up this way and get a side shot on the Vihor. but for some reason he circled left instead of going in, and I was going to ask you, is there like a minimum targeting distance or something before they just do this really long go the other way?
Yeah, it's just a turn radius.
So that stat does matter, I guess. Peace Run coming
Yeah,
in,
it kind of does.
and then 1-2. There we go. We actually didn't even need both hits because the first one I believe was a side shot, and we take down that very unfortunate V4, which that was really anchoring a side. Certainly, if I didn't push it in earlier, at this point I really should have gotten the reservists up and forward. Not much reason to not do that at this point. Just, I don't know. The perfect game of Wargame does not exist, I suppose, and I'm certainly not going to be the one changing that anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, you can afford to be conservative here. You know, again, it's like those are just 5-point reservists there, but you know, you're ticking well. You're actually about to close out the game just purely on tick.
Right. So,
there's not really much you can do other than heal rush you, which I don't think is allowed in the tournament.
no, it's not. So there was a limit on the number of helicopters and the expense of helicopters per side. But one flank can't have more. I think it's 300 points. It seems to be industry standard, I guess, between these sorts of tourneys. But finally, he does get my Legion, and because I was expecting him to go undercut it a little bit again, I actually force walked them back through the fire. So that's entirely my fault. But you know, that is going to close out the game. Well played to my opponent, Milk Tea, and many thanks to Osama Bin Lifting for doing the commentary with me and just sort of being a really good teacher for this whole game. So I do recommend you check out the Blitz War Discord and talk to some of those cool fellas. Now, kills and losses, 2380 kills, 1980 losses, could have been farther apart. Like it's a decent gap, but I've certainly seen worse, and I've certainly seen better with that. So it was comfortable, I think, but not crazy. And standout units are going to be not the 2A4, which did get kind of smacked, but sort of the other things like the Legion 90 that got Proletary 90, and then a lot of the AMX 1390s and those other sort of utility pieces. So that's going to be all we've got for you guys today. Thank you all for coming, hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.